Okay, in this video we're going to look at three really useful things. The first is how to measure distances without actually dimensioning them. The second is how to edit a pattern. And the third is how to dimension from the origin. So let's start with measuring a distance without dimensioning it. And what I mean by that is we've already looked at the dimension tool. So if you wanted to know the distance between this line and this center point of these circles, we could just dimension them. But let's say I didn't want a messy dimension here. I just wanted to know for my own sake what that distance was. Well, I can right click, escape from the dimension tool, press escape from the dimension tool, delete this dimension, and then I can go over to the inspect tab, and here are the measuring tools. I can measure a distance, an angle, a loop, an area. But I'm going to measure a distance. I see I can measure the distance between here and here is 3.438 inches. And this is a really neat tool. If I didn't pick a straight line like this, if I picked from the center of that point to the edge, this edge of the line, well, I'd get a X, Y, and Z position of my final point, as well as a delta X, or the change in the X direction, a delta Y, the change from the first point to the second point in the Y direction, and a delta Z. I could also just use the same tool and click on a circle, and it will bring me from my last point to the edge of that circle. If I close the tool completely and reopen it, I can also just click on any of these circles and it will give me the diameter of them. It's a really neat tool. Next, we've already seen how to make patterns. To edit them, it's quite simple. You just go to one of your patterns. I've patterned this. So I right click on one of my, I left click on one of my pattern features. And I get this little shape up here. I right click on that little shape, go down to edit pattern. And now I can control my pattern and change it accordingly. Finally, we're going to look at the origin here. The origin is a point that Inventor has set up for us that we can reference in our drawings. Now, it cannot be moved, but it is a point that can be deleted. So if you're highlighting things and you accidentally delete it, I'm going to click Control Z and because I want it there. But just be aware of that. If you have a bunch of extra things around it, you might want to select them individually and not highlight the whole region, because that would get rid of your origin. Just a thought. Now, it could be nice to reference the origin if we wanted to control where on the page these drawings were. So if I use my dimension tool, I can click on the center of this circle and the origin, and just like any other dimension, I can control how far those 2 points are apart. So if I wanted them 5 inches apart, I could do that. And I could do the same thing with the Y dimension. I could make them 2.5 inches apart. And using that, I can control where exactly where things are on the page. It's a more precise process than just using the move tool. And just a quick note on deleting patterns. It's not as simple as deleting other geometry, where you just highlight and press delete. Cannot do that. Pattern is better protected, so we must, same way you would pull up the edit. So you can left click on it, pull up that little icon, and press and right click. You could also just directly right click on any pattern geometry, just so you could pull up the edit pattern option or the delete pattern option. And you pick delete pattern, and now if we wanted to get rid of our base geometry, we could also do that like we would normally do. Highlight, press delete.